Anything else you think Battlefield did right? Such as, like, what are your opinions on the maps? Do you think Battlefield maps are better, or previous Battlefield games maps are better? What are your
The maps is
thoughts?
kind of hard to. This game, they probably could have done better. I have fun on a lot of maps, but then the same maps, I'll have like the shittiest time. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. I think
you
it's
see,
a
some maps are really good for a certain amount of people, but then you get in a server where they put an insane amount of people on it, and then it just turns into grenade fest or spam fest, and it
yeah.
that kind of stuff gets annoying.
There definitely seems to be a an issue with both kinds of maps because with like closer, smaller maps like Metro, Grand Bazaar, Saint Crossing, maps like that, you've got choke points and funnels and laneways and stuff which can, yeah, like you said, end up in the nade spam and that. And you think, why don't you play the bigger maps like Caspian Border, Firestorm, and Karg? They're
And then
open
they're
and
just too
wide.
way too big.
Yeah, there's not enough cover from the air vehicles and the other vehicles, and you kind of are forced to play an engineer class because they're the only thing that can help combat against their mountain of vehicles, being pummeled at you in them big open maps. And while I love playing Conquest, I think Aftermath is just a superior map design and game in general, just because of the pure fact with the balance and the openness of the maps as well.
Right. See, what they did with maps, a lot of the maps are excellent for conquest maps. And I'm pretty sure that pretty much all the maps in Battlefield 3 were designed to be conquest maps.
Yeah,
It's just when they try to like port it over to like, a rush map or something,
yeah,
then that's when they just like, oh, let's stick a random income here. Let's stick another one here.
like
And then
yeah,
they did that without, thinking of like what the consequences would be. And you get everyone funneling through here.
yeah.
Oh, you spawn way back here, and then they steal your stuff, and it just kind of
Like the third base in Grand
right.
Bazaar, where there's just that hallway that like the only entrance is a doorway on either side, sort of thing.
You got a
Um,
doorway, a tunnel, and a street.
yeah,
And that's it.
exactly. And the street is a death trap. You can't go that way. And the right and left side are just always cut off by people, the defenders, obviously. And that's it, game over. The only times teams often win on
This is when
attacking,
you have a stack team. Yeah,
or their tanker is quite good. You know, no, the
exactly.
enemy
And
team
then you have
doesn't
like
bother to kill
six
the tank.
repairers.
Yeah, exactly. If the enemy team doesn't bother to kill if the defending team doesn't bother to kill the tank, it's game over. For them. So there's just so many things which can decide decide a game just like that. It's kind of like in Conquest. If there's a good jet pilot, I'd say it's game over because they can destroy your armor, your air, and your infantry all by themselves while you're stuck
And
capping flags.
I think that comes down to the fact that they made those maps for Conquest and then just stuck them on Rush. They were so focused on like, one of their selling points for the game was like, oh, every map we have all the modes on. But they didn't design the map for all the modes. They designed the
Yeah,
map for one mode and then stuck it. You see, back in BC2, I think what they did right was they had dedicated Conquest maps and dedicated Rush maps. You
yeah,
know, and like Valparaiso was just a Rush map, and that was like the best Rush map. And like Laguna Alta was just a Conquest map, and that was really good for Conquest. They didn't try to stick Rush on it, and they didn't try to stick Conquest on
yeah,
Valparaiso, and and that made the maps fun to play for that particular mode.
yeah. Laguna Alta would probably be a really crappy rush map. With all the buildings and like yeah, it just would be really bad. So instead of forcing it to play that way, they
I think
opened it up.
they should
Like,
design maps. They should design Rush maps.
well,
In
well,
addition to the
perfect
Conquest maps they're
example.
making.
I think a perfect example is Metro. That's a rush map through and through. Conquest is just so broken on on that map. But Rush is pretty fun. Do you agree with that? Like Metro is a pretty fun Rush map. It's not.
Unless you're getting spawn camped.
I Yeah, I guess. I mean, especially that first base. But if you have even teams, it's going to be a pretty even fight. But on Conquest, even teams means the US side's going to win. Is it the US
The
side that?
problem with getting into that is though, like the even teams argument is you get an even team maybe about 15% of the games you play.
No, but you know what I mean. It's just in terms of balance, the side that starts at A on Metro Conquest has a massive advantage straight off the bat Just being able to cap B without having to go up a staircase through a bunch of enemies to even get into the cap radius is just a massive advantage. You know, even you as a comp player, you say that's the hard side of Metro. You always say
The hard
that.
side is the Russian. Because they decrease the map radius. So if you're in US and you have to climb up the stairs, that's when you have the advantage.
Oh, okay, really? See, I didn't know
Because
that.
they reduced the cap radius to it of B. They made it unbalanced the other way now.
But either way, I think Metro is a map that was designed for Rush, and they kind of forced Conquest on it, and now it's the go-to map for M320 spam. You know, I think the game.
I don't play a lot of it. I don't play a lot of it.
Me neither.
Me
neither. That's exactly. Exactly.
LMGs,
but we play Metro
tubes,
Rush
grenades,
quite a
spam.
bit. We play Metro Rush quite a bit, but Metro Conquest I don't think we've ever played. Maybe once or twice. So yeah, that's your opinion. You think they should have dedicated modes for maps and whatnot, which
like they didn't put a second thought into a lot of the modes they have. Like squad deathmatch is probably like the most broken mode in existence of gaming.
Yeah.
You have like 20 people in one squad, 3 people in another squad, and then you have a tank that unbalances the whole map, and then you have the team with 20 people having the tank. And it's like, what's the point of playing this?
Yep. Yeah, I still don't get why they didn't fix that. How there's a max of 4 people per squad, but if you join off of someone, you join into their squad, so you can like you said have squads of 20, and that stuff. All right, so that's basically squad deathmatch in a nutshell. It's super broken. I think like they just need to do a more focus on maps and how they play. They just need to do more testing overall. With the beta, they shouldn't just do one map and mode. They should do a lot of maps and a lot of modes, or even just 3 maps and 3 modes, or, if... Can you imagine if the BF3 beta was Metro, right, but it had Conquest as well? Can you imagine...
They had a couple servers of Conquest.
Did they?
Well, they were secret servers.
Oh.
I actually I snuck onto one of those secret servers in Conquest.
Yeah.
And I was like so amazed. Like, man, this is crazy cool. Look, we have the flag. Wow, it's the building. And then I ran around and I got shot and I died. And like, wow, it was really laggy. But I'm like, this is Metro Conquest.
Wow. But can you imagine if they did the whole 64 player? There was a rotation of Conquest and Rush. Everyone would have told DICE, fucking fix Conquest Metro. It is so broken beyond belief. In the beta, everyone... I mean, they got enough hate for Metro Rush in the beta. I can only imagine how much hate they would have got.
There's people that love it, though. There's people that love Metro Conquest. They play nothing but Metro Conquest, even now, with the suppression and the nade spam and the 320 spam.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, it's not like my bag of tea or whatever, but...
yeah.
But
it makes you think what those players did in previous games, previous Battlefields, because seriously, all they do is sit there in a corner and spam M320s. What did they do in previous games? They're left clicking.
The technique, it takes a lot of practice to click the button. He probably has the diet Mountain Dew, and then on the left hand. And then the right.
The shit buckets and the man pants. Okay. Oh,
what's the next topic?
Okay, we have 2 topics left. I'll save the best one for last because this is the main reason why I brought you. But because I'm whoring you out, Zero. You were talking about destructibility. And how a lot of people want destructibility like BC2. But tell me tell the viewers.
You see, what a lot of people don't realize is that they see BC2, where you have a lot of these buildings that can completely collapse. But then, when you go to BF3, they have so much more freedom with their engine, so that they can build much more complex maps. In Bazaar, you have this giant building, this market building, and it has a lot of destructibility aspects, but it doesn't completely collapse. So then people are like, wow, the destructibility engine in BF3 is not as good as BC2. But BC2 was a lot more simple. You had all these, let's say Eureka Harbor, for example. You had all these identical buildings just placed next to each other over and over and over and over and over and over again.
There was no different. There was no difference.
And they were designed to be destructible. But in real life, you don't have these kind of buildings that look exactly like that, all next to each other with the exact same spacing and stuff. You have like, bigger buildings that if you were able to destroy them, that would completely ruin the experience of the map. It would
Yeah,
be
like
ridiculously changed. And then you'd have people just sitting here instead of actually playing the objective, be like, "Oh, I'm gonna destroy the building." Oh, and then you'd have like useless teammates destroying the giant building that's gonna ruin the game for you.
yeah.
What is the point of that?
Well, can you imagine if the Caspian Tower, which is destructible, but it's a cinematic thing, can you imagine if people could, put 10 C4 and it would blow it up? Can you imagine how many useless people there would be running to that antenna trying to blow it up, like in the middle of the game?
Yeah.
There would be so many, like, yeah, look at me.
Now,
I'm causing mass destruction, which is cool, but it doesn't work game-wise. There's so many errors that can be problems with it.
now, for going to BF4, they're going to try to create more situations where you could have a destructible environment.
Yeah.
They might create some bigger buildings that you can destroy, and they've already said that they're going to do this. So, like, you have to not get so nitpicky about what you can destroy and not. Some stuff, like, let's say Bazaar, for example. You have the huge building that can't be destroyed, but then you have, like, the corner building that you can destroy the whole thing. And that makes sense
tops
because
of the B, like the B in Conquest, you can just rubble everything down, but you can't bring down the entire building, obviously, because that would ruin the map.
Yeah, I think destruction in BF3 gets a bad rap. People saying that BC2 is so much better, it's just because it was a lot more simple. With the new engine they had for BF3, that they were able to build a whole much more complex environments and stuff.
Yeah,
and these complex environments, if they were destructible, it wouldn't be as fun as you think it would be.
Yeah.
I remember even in BC2 when the whole map was destroyed, it made me angry. There was no cover. There was just people shooting you across the map.
Especially them high ticket games, like on like
oh yeah,
like Eureka Harbor. Like if there was like a big ticket game, by the end of it, it was just kind of running for your life because there was no cover to get into.
And people are like, yeah, that's a unique aspect of Battlefield. Everything's destructible, and it's like, and that makes it fun.
And imagine if there was like an attack chopper on their
maps.
maps.
They didn't have that.
Imagine if there was like an attack chopper on their maps. They'd destroy every building.
Destroying the whole building?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden...
the Bazaar building on all of you guys. I got 25 kills.
Yeah, but like even just any map. Think of like Karg Island. If every building on that was destructible, like even them construction sites and stuff like that, a helicopter could just go over, blow it down, and all of a sudden all infantry is easy pickings. There's no protection to getting destroyed by an air vehicle.
Yeah, I think when you're having the conversation about destruction, you have to in order not to unbalance the game in the map, you have to have destruction with leaving yourself cover, because once you don't have any cover because everything's destroyed, then that the map's imbalanced,
Yeah.
The the defending people, they'll have the advantage. There's no cover for you attacking or that kind of stuff,
Yeah. I personally would like to see a bit more destruction, such as things like think of like the metro buildings out in the metro part, like not in the tunnels, like the city part. People can like sit behind the windows and stuff, and yes, they can be RPG'd out, but once they've been RPG'd out, there's still that bottom section which is completely indestructible, and it doesn't matter how much you hit it or how much to destroy it, it's an indestructible piece of thing, and the enemy can just hide behind it and use it to their advantage. Or like the metro down near the C flag on Conquest, on Rush, it'd be cool like to blow out like the entire wall and being able to push through, but instead you're pushed into these funnels sort of thing. Like with Grand Bazaar, it'd be awesome to be able to blow open that door, so there's a much wider space for people to push through, not one at a time through a doorway sort of thing. Yeah, I don't want mass destructibility because that would just ruin maps, but I do want a bit more. I think Battlefield deserves a bit more, and it would make the game a lot funner because there'd be less people being able to hide in certain spots. Like dumpsters, they're invincible. You can't RPG them, you can't do anything. If someone's in a dumpster, you can't destroy it. So, like, it'd be cool for things like that to be able to blow up, and, things such as that. Yeah, you ever... Have
Just
you
like
ever...
pop a hole in it or something?
Yes, being able to shoot through
actually, in
dumpsters
real
and
life,
stuff.
I've never shot a dumpster with an RPG before, so I don't know how
I'm
that
gonna
would work
assume
out.
it would fucking rip open like it'd be like a tin can. But like someone being able to shoot through it, you know, someone bipoded in a dumpster, you've only got that little bit of their head to shoot. But if they made that destructible, you could blow it open, you could shoot through it, you know, because metal would go through, you know, metal would go through metal, bullets would go through metal, you know, quite easily, I'm almost certain. And that's the sort of thing I want a bit more, and being able to shoot through more objects.